It's a very nice union of things that we are assembling here for the presentation here for the history refresher course. And in this aspect, we are going to have two sessions from me. And one is on trends of research in history. And the other one is on, the second one is going to be on use of science and technology in historical research. Now, without wasting any time, I welcome all the participants from different parts of the country. And I think it is going to be an interesting aspect because we learn that how history has been now relegated to background for various reasons. And science and technology has occupied a central position. Without using science and technology, without knowing the current trends of history, it is very difficult for anybody to understand and to impress upon the students as far as historical knowledge is concerned. So that is why we are concentrating on one of the most important aspects of historical analysis called as trends of research in history. And this trends of research in history is a part and parcel of social science research, because history is a part of social science research. And we need to understand that exactly how this historical research occupies a placement as far as the current trends or existing trends are concerned. So before we proceed to realize the trends of research in history, we try to begin from the concept of what is social science research. I believe you are all looking at your this one monitors, and then you are getting all the information. May I know that you are getting all the information? Hello, dear participants.
No, sir. No, sir.
Sir, your voice is audible, sir. No problem,
Yeah.
sir.
But you are not getting the material.
Not getting material, sir. You share, sir. You try to share it, sir.
Yeah. That's what. I think you are 1 minute.
Share option is there, sir. You see, sir, screen below.
Yeah. That's what I'm just looking at it. Just excuse me 1 minute.
You are sharing actually. So this one you want to share?
Trends of research.
Yeah. So you go here.
Yeah.
You click and then you click on share. Now it is visible.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Thank you. So
Yes,
I
sir,
believe
yes,
now
sir.
it is clear, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You are
Can
getting
see.
the material.
We are
Yes.
viewing.
Okay.
Now
Thank you.
the screen is clear, sir.
Okay. Now it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, before we start the presentation of recent trends of history, as a part of social science history research is there, and we need to update our knowledge as far as historical research is concerned, because we are facing a very challenging situation as far as social science are concerned. History is not so much attracting the students or academic year at the present day. And that is because of the development of so many techniques of presentation, because of the techniques of science and technology and all these things. However, the current trends of research in history are varied, and there are so many aspects of that. But however, before we just enter into the aspect of understanding what exactly is this trends of history, we try to dwell upon what is social science research. So it is on your screen. I'll just pass on that. Social science research is a field of study that uses scientific methodology of investigate human behavior, society, and culture. Social scientists vary of research methods to examine social phenomena and human institutions, including survey, experiments, observation studies, and so many other things. Contextual analysis, all these things include a part of the social science research. Social science research comprises a wide range of disciplines, including sociology, psychology, economics, political science, anthropology, communication studies. It aims to understand and explain human behavior and social interactions, as well as ideological social problems and issues. Well, this is at a broad context what we mean by social science research, because under that social science research, we come across historical research, and the trends of historical research will come within that comprehension. So towards that, we come across some examples of the social science research topics include, is only an example, not the complete as such, the impact of social media on communication and relationship. That has become a very important component today. The effects of poverty and inequality in health outcomes has become an attractive aspects of the social sciences today. The factors that contribute to political polarization and extremism has become very important aspect of the present day, what is called contextual social science research. The dynamics of workplace, culture, and organizational behavior also has influenced a lot as far as the behavior of the historical research in the influence of social science research. The influence of culture, values on attitudes and beliefs also have occupied an imaginary position as far as the social science research is concerned. Hence, kindly put off your phones. There is a cross information is going on. Please put off your voices and then mute your voice and just hear to what the lecture is going on. Social science research can provide insights into complex social issues, informations, policy and decision making, and help individuals and organizations to better understand and navigate the social world as such. These are all considered to be most important aspects of that. Towards that, we'll have what is called, you have to have the knowledge of your society. So what exactly do you have your knowledge about your society? The comprehensions of the society, the socio-economic aspects of society. Not only that, even ideological aspects and thinking capacity, etc., also contribute to that. And that is why you need to understand the whole surroundings, which is considered to be a very important aspect as far as the social science research is concerned. And so we come across, better you have to understand your society before you head towards your aspects of research in social sciences. Now, after understanding the social science research, we enter into another important aspect, that is what is called historical research as such. Because historical research falls within the comprehension of the social science research. So in that perspective, we come across historical research is a systematic and rigorous investigation of the past events, phenomena, aimed at understanding and interpreting history. It involves many things, analyzing things on the basis of evidences of various sources, such as documents, artifacts, and primary sources on one hand, as well as secondary sources like books and articles and writings of historians and so on and so forth. All these things are very, very important because history is not a story. History is a testimony of the past, not merely a past, it is a testimony of the future also, according to some of the historians. Because we don't deal upon only past, because past is only viewed because of the future only. And that is why everything that surrounds on the basis of the documentation and sources and on the basis of the evidences that we have, we try to project on some aspects of our memories and then records of the past, and we call it as history. And towards that, we have this historical research. Furthermore, the goal of historical research is to uncover and interpret the events, people's movements that shaped the past, and to draw conclusions about the past or the human what's called past significance and meaning of these phenomena. All these things are going to be understood here in historical research. And that is why we come across every aspect of human association. Man, as a component of so many aspects within himself, will cover all these aspects. And so historical research is a combination of many aspects that today we are dealing upon aspects of history. Historical research can take many forms. Depending on the focus and scope of the investigation, all these things vary. And that is why we come across historical research is a very important component. Towards that, we try to realize. However, when we try to understand the methodology of history, we try to comprehend on the methods and techniques of that are used in the historical research. Because before we go to trends, before we understand the prevailing scenario in which historian is making his attempts to realize, we try to realize that What are the techniques of his understanding, techniques of what's called writing history, and how these techniques are very, very important from that aspect and point of view. We have archival research. It is a very important component. Now we deal upon archival sources because documentation is maintained everywhere and documentation is digitalized today. We have volumes and volumes of many archival sources are there. And without using these archival sources, it may be very difficult for us to understand history, and the related material relating to history is also not available, not possible. Similarly, we are now into oral historical technique. There were days when Herodotus said that everything need to be recorded, but now we cannot depend upon only recorded history. We need to depend upon oral history also, the memorial history also. People will have so many experiences in them through various folk and what's called other aspects. So oral history constitute a very important source material, and the techniques of oral history is adopted as far as historical research is concerned in the writing process. Similarly, we have quantitative analysis using statistical methods to analyze history, data, and trends. So we try to what's called quantumize things on the basis of how much information we have, what information we have, and how to what's called analyze them is based on this quantitative analysis of history, which is comparatively very important and a significant aspect as far as social science research is concerned, like sociology, political science, and economics. So we come across historical research is beyond or even more than these social science research from that point of view. And now we have another technique also that is used called as comparative analysis. Historical research is not merely in isolation. Historical information is comparing and contrasting historical events, phenomena, and other aspects of the things, and the cross-examination of those things in the present scenario with other subjects and also other ideas as such. And now, other important technique that we have developed is the field-based analysis, which is considered to be a very important component that has emerged in the present day. When historical research and the methodology of research was developed, these techniques were not very much in common. But now these techniques have become a new phenomena, and these techniques are used by every historian. And that is why we come across historian in the present trend of research. There are some techniques which are used, and these are very, very important and significant from that point of view. Historical research is important because it allows us to better understand our shared what's called experiences and points, learn things from the success and failures of previous generations. So the main purpose of historical writing and the trends of historical writings is not just to know the facts, but to perfect ourselves, to dwell upon things that we need to face and the challenges that we are going to share, and everything will have to be understood. That is why the techniques that are followed in historical research are considered to be very significant from that point of view. So in the process of that, we come across, we have so many aspects relating to historical research, and that is why we see that how far historical methodology plays a very important thing. Like, for example, we have a book called Research Methodology in Techniques and History, wherein new techniques and methodologies have been spoken, and this is being displayed by what's called Amarkan Singh. A book is a very, very important one. You can also refer to that. You can have that material also, because now you have all the new techniques of research that are followed in historical research. Now, after that, we come to trends in historical research. We have understood social science research. We understood historical methodology. We have understood the techniques of research that are followed in historical method. And after that, we'll come to the concept of trends of research in history. What is meant by trends of research in history? And when we come to trends of research in history, you know, it refers to evolving approaches. Evolving approaches means the emerging things that are there around us, methodologies, themes, and areas of focus that historians adopt in their what's called writing of history, in the interpretation of the past. These trends indicate shift in how historical research is conducted and reflect changes in academic, societal, technological context over time. They show how historical inquiry is shaped by new concepts of questions, perspectives, and techniques. And that is why the trends are what is called coming to be a very important component, because we cannot depend upon the mere aspects of analysis of subject matter that was spoken some 25, 30 years before. And as a result of that, we come across the trends occupy a very important and a significant place And towards that, we realize these are some of the most important aspects that we are going to find. Now, after that, these trends also speaks about the directions of history writing, towards what we are heading towards what we are writing history. What are the most important attractions of history? Now, history has to compare itself with the challenging aspects of other social sciences and even sciences also. So towards that, we realize that directions of history writings are very important. Similarly, history is what's called processed for a specific time frame, and academic acceptance along with the sustainable theme of subject is also a very important component that we need to realize. So these things make us what are these concepts of what's called trends of history, and these studies need to be realized. Mr. Dr. Sridhar, I think your audio is troubling. Kindly put off your audio, please. And then we'll come to the need for the study. Why do we need to study trends of history? What is the concept of trends of history we have understood? And now we understand what is the need for such a study in the present scenario. See, most important thing is that changing requirements of academic research is the main purpose that we need to have trends of research. Now, the old concepts of academic research have changed. There are so many changes today. The requirements of this present society are different. A student seeks information not from the what is called bygone ages. Information is required from the comparative analysis and has to see from different angles, and that is why we come across the most important need of the study of trends is considered to be the requirements of the academic research that are today going on. To meet the requirements of knowledge society, a person is not merely satisfied with whatever present knowledge he has. We need to update information. We need to be processing an information. We need to go ahead with what is called running times or current trends of what is called running times. And that is why we need to require that updated knowledge which is required of the social structure of the present day. And that is one of the most important need of the study. To update the area of study is a very important thing. Within the study that we are conducting, there are so many changes today. The versions that were there some 20, 25 years was different. And the versions of study of area have completely changed. Now, microscopic studies are becoming very popular today. Macroscopic studies were considered by the early historians. General histories were written once upon a time. But now that is not the case. Now we are taking up microscopic studies, and these minute details and studies relating to microscopic aspects are very important. And that is why there is a need of the study of this what is called trends of history. Similarly, to attract potential researchers is a very important thing. We need to have researchers, and these researchers need to be potential in character, not simply for the sake of PhD, not simply for the sake of some what's called degree as such, but we need to have some contributory personalities who can contribute and enrich the field of history. And towards that, the trends will occupy a very important place. And that is why it is one of the most important need of the study that we have to concentrate upon. Similarly, we come across tuning to the application of history, non-redundant history. We need to tune ourselves to the application of history, how history is applied in day-to-day life. It is not theoretical, structural. It is not merely what's called what was said once upon a time, what was experienced once upon a time. But now history is being experimented, history is being used in our lifestyles, and now we are thinking of application of history and how history is applied. Like, for example, looking at one statue of a temple, looking at one nut or what's called some jewelry that is worn or described in one statue. Now we are bringing it up and we are making a photography of that, and now what is called a jewelry of that type is made. Tourism is something that is shooted out of historical analysis only. So application of history has become a very important aspect. Now we can apply some of the theories of state also. What was spoken by Kautilya long back, now it doesn't merely look or what's called pertain to only on theory, but now we are practicing that in today's life. History is a very important thing, and the need of the study is that we have to apply history to the present scenario and situation. That is why catering to the need of historical schools is a very important thing. There are several schools of thought today. Marxist school is there. Analytical school is there. And the what's called the economic components of history is there. Subaltern studies are there. Tribal studies are there. Now we concentrate on all these aspects and we come across that there is a need and there is a question everywhere. Everybody are curious to know things. Why, what, how, where, when? These are the questions that now historians will have to encounter and a history student will have to encounter. And that is why we come across these aspects are very important to it, because we cannot simply neglect history because we have to compete with other areas of knowledge also. And now we come across extension of the same, wide trends, modern trends of research. In continuation of that, we come across modern trends of research in history have evolved with the development of interdisciplinary methods. History was considered to be a subject, mother science at one point of time. It contributed to the enrichment of other social sciences also. But today, without the association of other sciences, in association with that, historical disciplines are developing, and that is why interdisciplinary methods are used today. Critical theories are developed. Advanced technology is being used today. These trends reflect the changing perspectives and tools that historians use to study the past. We are not merely based on some book material. We are not merely based on only some archival material. We are not based only on the epigraphical material. We are not based only on numismatic material, but also footprints, etc. Now we come across everything is subjected to what's called like technical assistance, and technology, science is playing an important role, and that is why the trends are very essential and they are expanding today. Expanding beyond traditional narratives. There were traditional aspects of narration, and now we have gone beyond them. Some key modern trends in historical research include very many aspects. Now we come across the trends, changing trends are considered to be moving together. We are coming closer to each other. We are understanding other aspects in a better sense. Now history is seen through mathematics. History is seen through biology. History is seen through geography. History is other subjects also, like physics, etc. Not merely social sciences. So we come across, now there is a concept of trend development, and that trend development has led to all other aspects of how we are culminating ourselves, and we are living together, and we are trying to understand history in that background only. And as a result of that, we come across, there are so many trends. There are several trends that can be spoken, and I have listed a few things which are considered to be very, very important from the point of view of approach of historical knowledge. And some of these disciplines that can be spoken is considered to be interdisciplinary approach is one of the most important aspects of the trends of historical research today. Historians are increasingly using methods from other disciplines such as archaeology, anthropology, sociology, economics, political science to gain deeper understanding of historical events. So they all contribute. Now we are also taking some of the inputs from these sciences to include into history, and historical research is going on based on these aspects also, and interdisciplinary aspects are adopted by any researcher, a PhD student, to write history. And so we come across interdisciplinary approaches are very important. This approach allows for more holistic view of history today. You cannot be simply what's called negated to only one particular point of view, but then you have to have a holistic approach of historical knowledge of a human society, and towards that, this interdisciplinary approach is very important. Connecting societies, cultures, material aspects of the past, everything are done here. Like for example, I have given an example. Environmental history integrates geography and environmental science to study the interaction between humans and nature and time and so on and so forth. And that is why we come across, we cannot keep ourselves aloof. And that is why interdisciplinary is one of the most important things. The second important trend that can be understood is considered to be micro-history. We used to have general history. We used to have some dynastic histories. We used to have the empire, history of the empires and so on and so forth. And macro histories were considered to be the order of the day at one point of time. Of course, that was required at one point of time, because without having a comprehensive knowledge of these things, it would not have been possible for us to enter deep into the knowledge that we are pursuing today. These micro histories are very important because it's become a trend of the present researchers. Micro history focus on detailed studies of small, specific historical episodes of communities, revealing broader social, cultural, and economic trends. This approach contrasts with traditional macro level of history that was offered earlier, offering nuanced insights into how historical changes impacted individuals and small groups. At one point of time, it was a general aspect of one particular society, but now micro history has centered upon things which were neglected at one point of time. Now, what was considered to be a minute detail of one particular approach of history has become a very important trend of the present day. And that is why we come across these things are very essential. And now we are following these trends also. In continuation of that micro history, we can say micro history is a practice aimed to return the narrative where the historians are generally concerned with overlooked persons and marginalized voices. We had not taken cognizance of the things which were considered to be marginalized sections of the society at one point of time. And now we are concentrating on that, where the historian tries to guess how large-scale global process and other things looked everyday lives during the time period study. So these are some of the important things that we try to concentrate upon. And that is why we realize that study of a greater minute detail is considered to be a very important aspect of the study. And that is why we need to go into the details, searching for each and every aspect of what we need to require, what we need to exactly ponder over. The third important thing that we are having as a trend of research today, historical research, is considered to be global and transitional history. Historians are moving away from Eurocentric or nation-state-centric aspects of the things which were pursued earlier. The perspectives have changed today, focusing on global history and transitional connections. This trend emphasizes how historical events and processes are interconnected across national boundaries, emphasizing migration, trade, cross-cultural interactions, etc. Now, world has become one global village today. And this global village are what is called considered to be an entity into oneself. And this entity needs to be realized in a significant manner. Without understanding these global perspectives of understanding social variety and cultural variety, it is not at all possible to understand history in its own variety. As a result of that, today we try to understand, try to globalize things and transitional things that are there in and around. So the fourth important trend of history that is been in focus is considered to be post-colonial studies. There were times we used to concentrate on colonial aspects of the study, but these days we are concentrating on neo-history, and this neo-history is considered to be post-colonial, and this post-colonial after independence, after 1947 and 50s, we have developed a new trend, and this post-colonial history examining the impacts of colonialism and the imperialism on both the colonizers and the colonized. So we are centering ourselves on the aftermath of these colonial aspects which were there earlier. And I'm not going into details because many of you know what is post-colonial, and we come across schools of thought also have developed herein. Like, for example, Edward Said's Orientalism has become a very important component. Critics how the West has historically presented the East in biased and what is called biased and distorted situation. We know Orientalism was something that tried to bring out everything that was considered to be negative in Indian culture. And these aspects no more holds validity. And we are now away from these concepts of post-colonial, and we come across freedom from subordination has become an order of the day. Now, we do not want to accept whatever that was spoken during the colonial period. Colonial reality it was considered to be, and this colonial reality cannot sustain for a long time, because now we have realized that we are beyond and more than that. And that is why we come across this freedom has become one of the most important, not only freedom of the individual, but freedom of thought and freedom of thinking and writing has become a very important thing. Similarly, we come across the most other important aspect of the trends of historical research is gender and women history. Now, women were marginalized once upon a time, and the value of woman in the building of the society and culture, civilization was negated. She was only a supporting aspect at one point of time, and now we are realizing that women played a very significant role in the formation of cultures, not only Indian culture, but world cultures also. Now she has become a central aspect, And now we are realizing the skills of women, the power of women, and then how she has scaled through the historical narrations, and we have neglected that aspect. Today, we are concentrating on those aspects of the study, and that is why we realize that gender studies and women history has become a very important thing. Gender history explores how gender roles were and their relations have influenced social formation, economic institutions, administrative aspects, even system that is being what's called associated with that. Everything is considered to be a very important thing. It cannot be, what is considered to be an example of that can be feminist historiography movement has led into what's called various components in European and other aspects, and we come across the creation of patriarchy concepts have changed, and today we realize that women play a very significant role, and that is one of the trends of history. Now we realize that women are powerful in the sense that they are also equally playing a predominant role with man. Man and women are equally responsible for the development of culture, tradition, and then social structure, economic system, and administrative aspects also. And now we realize that this is one of the most important trends of history. The sixth important, as far as my what's called categorization is concerned, is digital history and big data is one of the most important things. Now, digitalization of history has played a very predominant role. Without digitalization, you cannot what's called maintain the source of history at all. The sources which were considered to be old and violating are now protected, and we come across use of digital tools, and big data has transformed historical researchers. We have digitalized archives, online database, etc. If you can go to Delhi, what's called Central Archives, Delhi. If you can go to Egmore Archives, Chennai. Well, you come to Vidhan Soda, Karnataka State Archives for that matter, you will have voluminous information, and these informations are now transformed into digitalized structures. Now they are put into some small pockets of chips only, and this can be used. And we come across, they have constituted a very important thing. And now people are concentrating on what is digitalization, what is connection of the sources, how big data is protected, and so on and so forth. Well, I can tell you, if you want to have a very old book, like, for example, of the ancient period, or Vedas, or what's called Upanishads, etc., even if you go to some of the libraries here in India, you may not get them. But if you just click archives.co.in, that is considered American archives, you will get all the information. Now, whatever that was there as a book or a source material in India last, what's called in the ancient period, now is available worldwide, and that is because of the digital process that has been developed today, and that is a technology that is also helping us to understand what exactly and how exactly these informations are considered to be very, very significant from that point of view. Now we come across everything is now stored and put into that. The ancient culture, the medieval culture, the lifestyle of the people, the development of art and architecture, the development of various soft skills, etc., those period. The other aspects, every aspect that you can concentrate is available in this concept of storing data, and that big data is very considered to be a very important aspect of digital history, and we come across, thus has become a very important trend of historical writing. Similarly, we come across memory studies have become a very important one. I told you about the oral history. Well, oral history is one aspect of that. Just in side by side, we come across memory studies are there. Memory studies focus on how societies remember and comment on the past, analyze how historical memory is construed, contesting, and then use of shaping identities are also spoken here. The field examines the role of publication, memory, monuments, and historical narratives in collective conclusiveness. So we come across these information are regarded to be very, very important. Now, memory of a person, because human, what's called mind is a chip in itself. It restores and stores many things. It can maintain so many memorial aspects as such. What is not found in any record, what is not been found in any writing form, what is not been found in any archaeological form, well, you are going to find them in your own memory, and you have got what is called this concept of age-old memories, and these age-old memories are what's called strewn from down to various streams, and we have that history, and it has become a trend of historical writing today. And that is why we come across memorial history is very, very important. We come across that way. The eighth important thing that we can speak is the development of cultural history. Cultural history has not lost its significance because man is basically a cultural being. He is more associated with culture because lifestyle, the life of a person is a part and parcel of the culture that he leads, the society he lives in, the practices he follows, the value system that is there in himself, the social focusing, everyday life, what exactly you are imparting the knowledge to your children, to your society, to your surroundings. Everything is very, very important because without this culture, you are ending a generation. If the generations have to continue, then the cultural aspects of your own society and your own traditions, beliefs, practices, value system, everything needs to be continued. And we come across, they are all very, very important today, that we come across area-wise and then regional-wise and then linguistic-wise, or whatever is the method or practicality of that, you are following this cultural history. Whether it is a religious aspect also, you are going to follow that. And now all these things are considered to be very, very important from that point of view. We have maintained, we have safeguarded our own culture. Well, what was the different what's called styles of life and the practices followed and the festivals that were followed, everything can be seen. I have given only an example of Banjara culture, which is common all over India. And then we come across that how cultural aspects formulate a very important process of history. Well, similarly, we come across subaltern studies. Subaltern studies, as you know, is a very important study that everyone knows, but it has not lost its significance because subaltern studies occupies the imagination of the people because it is history from below. Originating in South Asia, subaltern studies focus on marginalized sections of the people and the groups of history such as peasants, workers, indigenous people. Critics like what's called a centralized approach of traditional historiography has been written. It gives voices to those historically oppressed or what's called overlooked people from ages immemorial. It can be a laborer for that matter. It can be a person who was tilling the soil and then what's called not heard of. People from below, they have contributed immensely for the construction of the culture, for the construction of the history of a land, etc. And all these things are regarded to be very important. Now, subaltern studies are occupying the imagination of every historian for that matter. So we know that how far in India, the most important contributor as far as subaltern studies was no other than Ranjit Guha. Ranjit Guha has contributed a subaltern study, a reader. We come across that some of the books that he wrote has mainly focused on aspects which were neglected either too. And the history from below constituted a very important epigenal as far as the development of historical pinnacle is concerned. And that is why we realize that historical knowledge is now today oriented towards writing something that was not focused earlier. And so we come across the subaltern studies occupies a very good important aspects of the trends of historical research. Now we have got public history. The public history is considered to be a very important component that is considered to be an emerging trend of historical knowledge today. Public history involves presenting history to the broader public interest, like what is called the concepts of museums, documentations, historical novels, digital media, and so on and so forth. Because there are so many things which are associated. There are so many people who are not strict historians. They are not into history field, but they are in literary aspect. They are into poems. They are into other writings as such. But they also present history because whatever they have penned, whatever they have written, they express the views of some past aspects and present scenario. And that is why we come across this public history is very important. This is considered to be viewpoints of the general people as such. We have so many histories. Many times, those people who are not strict to what's called historians, those people who are not practicing historians, they have developed into historical knowledge. And now researchers are into this perspective of understanding history. And we come across this public history has become a very important connotation as such. Recording things which are considered to be folklore for that matter, because societies are independent. These societies function on their own. We have what's called studies in what's called people's history. Books like that we have today. And these books will present you how there are several aspects which are not dealt by historian, but people in general, they deal with that. And all these dealings can be understood as one of the most important trend of history today. And researchers are focusing on these trends of historical knowledge. Well, continuing that, we can say that the most important, other important aspect is that environmental history. Well, it is emerging one of the most important spheres of historical knowledge. Environment plays a very important and a predominant role. What was considered to be a part of the study of geography at one point of time now has become a emerging trend. We have both physical geography, we have both cultural geography, we have a social geography is there. Environmental history investigates the relations between humans and then environment over time. We are reaping the fruits of why and how it is very, very important from that aspect of things as such. Focusing on how nature has influenced human societies and how human activities have shaped the environment is a very important thing. You cannot have history without environment, because geography and chronology are considered with two eyes of history is stated. So if it is only the environment, whatever environment you live in is imbibed by you, and historical knowledge will develop and will focus only into that factor. And that's why we come across today, this environment occupies a very important imagination of historical writing or research aspect. And that is why we come across you have to protect nature, your surroundings are such. Protect your own environment, protect your mountains, protect your hills, protect the rivers, protect the water bodies as such. Without doing all these things, we are at the edge of what is called collapsing ourselves. And that is why we realize that environment is the most important, what's called thirst of historical knowledge. Now, historians are not merely concentrating on history only, but on the other hand, now we are concentrating on development of environmental history as such, and how environmental history is considered to be a very important component as far as the historical trends are concerned. Similarly, we have got queer history. Queer history is another important aspect or new trend that is developed. Queer history explores the experience of LGBTQ plus individuals throughout history. People of third generation, or what's called third gender for that matter. We have some challenging scenarios, even with those people who are neglected hitherto. Challenging traditional historical narratives have emerged over that period today. We have the voices subdued because of their birth or because of some of the lacunas that are found here. But we come across, there are so many contributors. There are so many people who have contributed for the enrichment of history, culture, etc. And we come across queer history is gaining a lot of popularity. Like, for example, we come across research into homosexuality in ancient Greece, or the expression of LGBTQ individuals in 20th century has become a concept of history today. Now, we cannot deviate ourselves from the present challenges. As a result of that, what all that are happening in society are taken cognizance of that. And so we come across the queer history is occupying a very important position as such. And that is where we come across this is one of the most important evolving trend of historical knowledge. Now, similarly, we have digital history that is coming up like something like what is called is equal to a science. Use of digital technologies in historical research. That I am going to deal in my next session. But however, we come across this is one of the trends that is being developed. Digital tools, techniques such as data visualization, text mining, and so on and so forth, geospatial analysis, etc. And we have made history more and more scientific in its nature because of these aspects. And so we come across digitalization has led to what's called a revolution in history. And unfortunately, historical presenters are not very much familiar with all these aspects. And that is why the age-old system of presentation only by lecture method is becoming a very important thing. And now we have to satisfy our student. We have to satisfy our what's called seekers of knowledge. Now we have to deal upon these aspects of study, which are otherwise considered to be very, very important. So we come across, when we come to digitalizations, we had no knowledge. If at all you want to have a comprehension of what exactly was the working culture of the what's called the past. Like, for example, I have given a small picture here, like how the Bombay Chowpatty looked like. Well, we are now making through a photograph. You have a camera today, and now cameras will speak for you now today. You may forget many things of your own experiences where you have gone for a tour or trip, etc. You would have taken some photograph, and that photograph remains with your chip here in your framework, and that will memorize. After 20 years, if you see that what is called photograph, you realize that. And now historians are concentrating on focusing concepts of what's called digitalization. And this history is very important. And we come across that has become a new trend of historical narration. Similarly, we have got the history of discoveries and inventions. Discoveries in the sense not merely geographical discoveries. Growth of human civilization is a product of what is been unearthed or what's called secrets of knowledge, hidden in the safe crust of time and space. time and space are two important components which have safely crested, which have safeguarded so many hidden knowledges are there. And now we come across discovering those things in history is a very important thing. Now, what was regarded to be one reality at one point of time may not continue to be a reality forever. There are changing dimensions, and these changing dimensions of historical knowledge is because of the new components of discoveries that we make into history and human knowledge and the human customs and traditions also. The concept of how ancient people used to bury their dead, what were the various ceremonies they were conducting, how these will have an influence on today. Whatever that we have inherited today, all the practices that a family is conducting today, the food habits for that matter, the dressing habit for that matter, whatever the other what's called festivals that we perform, everything is only a matter of querying into the past. And if you discover into your own past, then you realize what exactly is the concept of history can be seen. So we come across, this is where the discoveries both in the field of geographical scenario as well as scientific scenarios have brought lot of changes into the attitude of historical writing. And historical writing does not merely script upon only what was considered to be one epigraphical source or what's called literary source as such. Now there are so many investigations that are going on. History is taken as a serious subject only when these things are adopted into the writing of history. And historians today are concentrating on these components also, and that is why it has developed as a trend of historical narration and writing. So we come across, there are other aspects also, like today we are into the tribal and aboriginal studies. These are the sections of society. Not only they are considered to be subaltern in nature, but they are much more subaltern in their character because of their birth and because of their what's called treatment from the very ancient periods. They were people who were kept away from the civilized societies. They were the people who were considered to be the original inhabitants of any land or culture for that matter. But then, what exactly is the status they are getting today? What exactly is the position that they are getting today is been what's called not analyzed for a long time. But now, after 80s and 90s, we come across it has become a central point of understanding. It has been considered to be one of the trends of historical writings. We can say tribal and aboriginal studies makes and contributes differently that how far historical knowledge is considered to be a very important component. That's why history is interested in knowing the beginnings of our own formation, human evolution, formation of early cultures, the caveman, his inhabitations, and the course of transitions shaping historical orders is a very important thing. Until and unless we realize these things, because we cannot build upon some of what is called a civilized society until and unless we know our backgrounds and we know our footprints as such. Well, these studies are concentrating. They are making into a very important aspect of that. That is why tribal and aboriginal studies are very important. We have various tribes across the world. We have so many tribes. Even today, they are away from the civilized societies. So these are some of the northeastern tribes that we have in India. It is the Indian tribes we have. Their food habits are different. You may be surprised to learn that in some of the states, serving the dog meat is considered to be a very, very important one. So they even today practice that. Serving some of the foods that are forbidden otherwise are all followed here. And some tribes even today keep themselves away from the civilized approach as such. So now we are trying to concentrate on the study of these people, and we are making our attempts towards writing and bringing the rich cultural deposits that are there within these cultural aspects and aspects as such. That is why we come across tribes and then various tribes. Even in Karnataka, you come across so many tribes are there. If you go to Nilgiri Hills for that matter, Baba Budangiri Hills for that matter. So if you go to Tamil Nadu, and then if you go to other, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, so you will have so many tribes, and all these tribes have their own backgrounds, and these backgrounds have in one way or the other have led to the enrichment of Indian history and world history as such. Now researchers are concentrating on the development of these themes, and we have these tribal histories, aboriginal histories, and history of the people who were neglected for a long time. Similarly, now we come across that this has become a very important trend of historical learning and knowledge. We are into this aspect. Tourism studies is one of the most important emerging trend. There is nothing like what is not tourism today. History is the main source of tourism today. Wherever you go, whatever country you visit, whatever monument you go, it explains you the richness of any cultural part of that system. Now, tourism studies are concentrating on these aspects, and they are exploiting some information, some soul of history, and tourism study has developed into that aspect. So we come across history has become a product of knowledge as well as a leisure time. Man has to have some time to spend upon in his busy circle, and that is why we come across leisure has become a very important component. The historical monuments, the sites of excavation, the places of humans of history have become tombs of demonstration, attracting the attention of the researchers today. So if you go to Indus Valley civilization, if somebody has gone there, you can view that how far, what was the culture that was there in the real sense. If you go to Egypt, you can understand what exactly is the achievements of the ancient Egyptians. Why go all the way? Go to Hampi, go to Belur Halebid, stand before some of the monuments. They not only ease your tension, but also will give you a lot of knowledge into how you were, what were your people at one point of time, how skillful they were, how artistic they were, and what was the knowledge they possessed in days when there was no science and technology. You might be surprised to learn that Brihadeshwara temple, there is a big dome on the Shikara, and it is weighing something like 8 tons. To carry that 8 tons of load of dome to that height, it was not such a small thing. It took nearly some 3 to 4 kilometers of elevated structure to be constructed, and elephants and laborers seems to have pulled that weight in those days. Similarly, pyramids seems to have constructed. Go and stand before any monument for that matter, you will realize what exactly was the development of knowledge, what exactly was the development of system of what is called knowledge that was seen in ancient, medieval, and even what is called the days before us. So all these things now have become part of the tourism studies, and tourism studies are what is called considered to be the trends of history. I myself, I must have evaluated not less than some 5 to 6 theses from various universities on the basis of this tourism, different aspects of tourism, ecotourism for that matter, or cultural tourism for that matter, or sustainable tourism for that matter. Whatever it is, we come across tourism, which is a part and parcel of history, has become a very important thing, and we realize that it is one of the trends of history, and that is where we come across Indian tourism is considered to be a very rich tourism business or industry has become. It is giving so much of employment. It is giving so much of economy. It is providing so much of livelihood. So many people. It is a part of history. So historians will have to concentrate. We have to own that history is the source of this tourism, and Indian tourism, or for that matter, world tourism, has become a very important component of that. If you can go to some of the places like Taj Mahal for that matter, I'm just giving one example here. There are several hundreds and hundreds of such great monuments all over India, and the worldwide structure we are going to find. Well, this is one of the most important, or what is called things, enriching experience that you will have here. Yamuna river is there. In the background, you come across Taj Mahal glittering. That is one of the what's called beauties that we can see in our lifetime as such. Similarly, if you come to Kerala backwaters, you come across how boating has become a very important thing. People throng there only for that purpose. And now sustain, what's called giving substance to that, is considered to be one of the important tasks of a historian. We cannot just merely neglect that it is not our area of knowledge, but history has become a source of knowledge, and historical knowledge constitute a very important component of that. Similarly, we have history of movements and events. Movements have taken place. Not only national movement, I mean to say, movements of different types. It may be a violent movement, it may be a softened movement or a cool movement, whatever it is, we come across, history has witnessed many movements for that matter. It is a process that shaped because of what is called continuous occurrence of events. In fact, history itself is based on many events as such. We have so many events. Several events are constituted of history, and these events will lead to the making of historical what is called periods, and from ancient, prehistoric to what's called modern, we come across there are several events continuously, and in chain link you have various movements, and these movements have created history, and separate what's called concept can be seen when we speak of some of the events like what's called Dandi March or what's called national movement led by Mahatma Gandhiji and many other leaders of that sort. So even today, we are prideful to say that how far such a non-violent movement was conducted in India, and boosting away one of the biggest empires of the world from Indian scenario. And this is all because of the people's involvement and the greater sacrifices they have done. And today we are concentrating on the movements as such. So these movements and events that have taken place with various places or various times frame also contribute to development of historical knowledge. And now this is one of the most important trends of historical learning as such. Similarly, we come across comparative and characteristic studies of the what's called formulate one of the most important research areas of the present day today. Personality studies are there today. Enough material in historical order to provide and promote studies in comparison of time and space along with subject and material. We have various characters also. We have people's history also, leaders' history also. We have some achievements of the people, etc. And now that is also one of the most attractive aspects of historical knowledge. And we realize that how far today every historian is concentrating on comparative analysis. They try to inculcate into history with other subjects and try to compare that to what extent time factor, space aspect also played a very important and a significant aspect of such. So these things constitute a very important aspect of the trends of historical knowledge, and historians now are dwelling upon these aspects. Every researcher, all the researchers are now pondering over various aspects of the study of this sort, rather than only concentrating on the age-old system of development of historical knowledge. Now, though we have come away from the concept of political history, we cannot be free ourselves from the state and administration. The concept of administration, which is a collaboration with the political science for that matter, or public administration for that matter. But history is proving to be a very useful and a very important and a significant source of historical knowledge is given as far as study of the state is concerned. What is a state? Nature of the state, responsibilities of the state, whether something is to be considered as a part and parcel of the administration. These things are essential. Now, you may be surprised sometimes. You may be surprised to say that somewhere, if some train accident happens, why should the central minister resign for that? Or the railway minister should resign for that incident? Because we come across, they are interlinked today. The states are not merely considered to be welfare states, but they are beyond and more than welfare states today. State had occupied very significant position in the formation of what's called human life as such. In every aspect of human life, state is a very important thing. If you don't have food, it is a responsibility of the state to provide food to you. If you don't have health, it is a responsibility of the state to provide health to you. It is a responsibility of the state to protect you and promote you and then safeguard you. Security is also a concern of the state today. Now, understanding those aspects has become very important. What was the state doing when Mauryas were ruling, when Guptas were ruling, when Mughals were ruling, when Cholas were ruling, Vijayanagara were ruling was something different. The ancient concept of statedom and the state authorities were different. And the modern concept of statedom is different because it is an evolutionary process. And now historical researches are conducted on the basis of these aspects of analysis only. And that is why we come across state and administration has become a very important one. So we come across overall, these are only a few examples. We can say that how far there are aspects of study. But however, we continue to dwell upon some of the other trends also, like history of migrations. History of migrations, whether it is due to food migration, shelter migration, job migration, or livelihood migration, or weather migration, for that matter, we have today developed upon this concept of migrations. You cannot be isolated in yourselves. No, people in Bangalore, if you take Bangalore, for example, come to Bangalore, the population of Bangalore is something like what is called more than 1 crore, 1 crore and 30 lakhs or something like that. If you consider nearly half of the population of Bangalore is not Bangaloreans or Karnatakas. They're all people from different cultures. They have moved from various parts of the country. Some people are from Bengal. Some people are from Haryana. Some people from Punjab. Some from Rajasthan or Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, etc., Andhra. All these states are there. You cannot simply put brakes on this movement of the people for various reasons, because now it has become a composite culture. Composite cultures have led to development of these migratory histories. At one point of time, there were migrations from one continent to the other continent. The African people seems to have come to India through what's called hugging the coast of the what's called sea, water bodies, etc. Probably you might be knowing that ragi was not the staple food of what is called India at one point of time. Ragi seems to have come from Africa to India. How did it come? It's because of the migratory practices. Not only human beings, even birds also will have migratory practices. Even animals also will have migratory practices. Now it has concentrated, it has created so much of enthusiasm among the historical researchers that these migratory histories have become very important, because these migrations have shaped and developed civilizations significantly. We have so many theories of migrations also. If you come to India for that matter, you have got so many theories of Aryanization also. Whether it is true or wrong, that is a different thing. But now we come across that there is a concept of migration. The migratory history has occupied presently one of the most important aspects, that how far civilizations have developed, and what's called a process towards that can be seen here. So we come across this is something that can be understood as one of the most important aspects of the study. And then we come across the concept of migration can be seen as how they crossed the geographical boundaries also. They crossed the environmental boundaries also. They crossed many weather conditions also. Whereas some of the sterile conditions also, and all these have led to the formation of world culture today, and history is the representation of all these. We come across human history as a migratory history also. Similarly, we come across foods, drinks, and culinary practices are some of the most important trends of historical writing today. Gone are the days where we were not concentrating on what type of food we eat, what type of dress we make, what type of drinks we have, and what are the traditions associated with that. What festival is conducted? In one festival, we have vegetarian foods. In another festival, or what's called, we'll have non-vegetarian foods. Similarly, in one religion, something is spoken. In other religion, something else is spoken. Not only or fraction of the people bury the dead, some people will not bury that. They will burn it. They will what's called even expose it to nature, etc. So we have several aspects that are interesting in what's called developing all these aspects of the study. And so modern historians are now looking into all these new perspectives of knowledge to bring under the composition of history. And history is a combination of all these subjects today. It is not one. It is not isolated. It is not single. But on the other hand, history has developed all these things. So why should we develop? There is a history for that. Why should some people have these practices? There is a history for that. So go back to history. All the questions of these things are answered by history only, and history occupies a very important placement as far as the study is concerned. So we have foods and drinks are something that is a choice of the people. So whether it is one community, one region, one ethnic background, or what's called cultural society for that matter, everybody will have their own aspects of foods and drinks, and we come across these or some of the areas that are considered to be very, very important. So I have listed out some these 20 to 21 aspects of trends of history writing that are very much prevalent in the present scenario. However, they are not the end at all. They are not the final. There are other new aspects also. Think of a new area, then it becomes a trend. Only thing is that who has proposed and how it is being brought out. Like, for example, people's history that was developed in France was something that attracted many things. Like, for example, if your new concept is developed like Naboru Karashima or what's called the segment theory of what's called Buttenstein, or what's called the Marx concept of class struggle, etc. You develop one component, develop one concept, and this concept occupies a very important placement as far as historical knowledge is concerned. And that is why we come across, I have listed out here some of the very, very important areas of thirst in knowledge which constitute the trends of historical writing. And we have, apart from that, many more trends also. It may develop, it may change from time to time. Anyhow, we come across these concepts are very important from the point of view of understanding and learning history, because the study of history has evolved significantly over time, reflecting shifts in intellectual frameworks, methodologies, societal needs. Historical research continues to develop. The trends in field highlight the increasing importance of interdisciplinary approaches, the inclusion of marginalized voices, and the concept of global comparative perspectives. These trends ensure that historical research remains dynamic, relevant, and comprehensive. If these trends are not included, what happens is history becomes redundant. It stops there. History cannot grow because it cannot be relevant to you. It cannot be application history. That is why trends are very, very important. That is why current trends in history emphasize more critical and nuanced understanding of the past, moving away from the purely political or elite-focused narratives of inclusive, socio-economic, etc. At one point of why we were concentrating only on kings, queens, generals, wars, etc. But now we are looking into the effects of those aspects and beyond that. We are not just giving the framework of history, but we are being into the historical aspects, culling out some of the important aspects as far as development of trends are concerned. I can conclude by telling the trends in historical research illustrate the growing commitment of the understanding of the complexities of the past. This ensures that history serves a very important purpose only as a record of human events, but also as a lens through which we can understand comparative issues, contemporary issues, and inform future decisions. That is why whatever decision that is being going to take after 10 years or 15 years, now we are looking back into the treasures of history. History is a treasure house of knowledge. It is an ocean of knowledge. You cannot have anything beyond history today. But the thing is that how moderated, how sophisticated we are, and how scientific we are as far as using those techniques are concerned and material is concerned. That is why I can tell you that these are some of the trends that are very, very important from the point of view of understanding, realizing the historical research. Historical research is relevant today, is sustaining today, is because of, in fact, we are into the modern perspectives of knowledge that are considered to be used by everybody, we can say. Well, I have given some of the what's called references that I have seen. As far as if you can want to, you can have the list of the references to develop these aspects, like these things. And I also use some of the Google Wikimedia, free Wikipedia search material also. So these some of the sources I just what is called used only to highlight some of the components. But apart from that, I've also visited into various archival source material and other epigraphical source material and literary source material to develop into that. I believe that this trends of historical research that we have analyzed is very, very significant from the point of view of learning and updating ourselves, because we are into the concept of modernity, we are into the people's history, we are into updated component of history, and we are into utility history. Without using history for the day-to-day purpose, it is not possible. I believe that now it is what's called free time, lunch or tea time for you. I believe that if at all you have any any queries or anything that you need to what's called ponder over, you can develop. We have all these sources we have used, and I believe that if you have any clarifications to make or what's called to seek, you are welcome to seek. Thank you all the participants for your patient listening, and I hope that this is